it was a very weird auction, I should say, for the Delhi Capitals here.
McLaren probably is in her last leg. This could potentially be her last cycle. So
we don't know whether she's going to be fit or not, because we know the injury that she had and the extent of it during the World Cup. So
first of all, I don't know what the other four teams are doing. Matlab, how could you let that happen?
So Harleen Devan is going to
Akshay is already making his points to combat you.
He's not going to agree with me on this, but I don't think they have a choice here.
The larger WPL fan fraternity wants a WPL final without MI featuring in it. Do you think that can happen this time?
Or some other team, jumping in, somebody like UP Warriors or GG. I won't say RCB since they won it. It's probably one of those two teams featuring alongside maybe DC. But
see, there's not going to be a perfect side. What we are looking for is the least flawed side possible.
Like,
is that just me being skewed biased RCB view?
Both of us are trying to be very polite here. Avnish is trying to sell RCB the product. Before I get to that, I really hope someone clips this and sends this to the RCB team. They should know how big a fan they have in Avnish. I mean,
right, the WPL auction's done and dusted, and we can't wait to see what happens in 2026 when these five teams lock up against each other. And boy, oh boy, I can say already as an RCB fan, I'm buzzing. And I have a song to say to all these boys later on, but introductions first. Akshay Swami, and we have a special man in terms of the women's cricket fraternity joining us, and generally everything in cricket. Jeet, good to see you, Jeet. Let me start with you. How are you? It's been ages since we've done anything together on video.
Yeah, I'm doing really well. I mean, yeah, I know it's been a long time, but I've been caught up with a few things. So, yeah, having fun, just enjoying the madness that's been going around in the cricketing industry. And yeah, I mean, here to talk WPL, one of my favorites. So, doing good.
One of all our favorites, especially Akshay Swami, because I'm pretty sure he would have been having a smirk, a smile, a laugh, a giggle with all his friends in terms of RCB doing an amazing job out there on the auction table, Akshay.
Amazing would probably not be the first word I would associate with RCB's auction strategy, but yeah, it was great fun watching it. And for the uninitiated, let me just put it out there. I honestly believe that after the 3rd of June, I've sort of managed to distance myself from RCB. So I want to believe that I would be a lot more neutral. Let us see if that actually happens. Because even now, when I saw the auction, I don't think I was just as taken over by some of the buys or misses that RCB had. So all in all, yeah, it was a great auction, to be honest. A lot of surprises, like Jeet also mentioned, so plenty to talk about. And importantly, Avnish, I'm pretty sure you must be excited about the fact that RCB signed none other than Lauren Bell.
Honestly, I told you about the song that I've already crafted for her, which is basically Lauren Bell's in fire, your defense is terrified, and then it goes like that, and it'll be absolutely brilliant. I mean, I've been manifesting it. I've always been a Lauren Bell fan because she's so good with the new ball. Let's put that out there. Obviously, aesthetics-wise, a whole different chat, but I'm just happy that Lauren Bell is going to be playing for RCB. Right, so of course, we're going to be talking about the five teams in terms of the business that they've done, who's kind of going into the tournament looking strongest. Akshay just told me off camera that there's not that much of a gulf in class between those sides. So let's see if the boys have their points sorted. So we'll start randomly. I'm not going to give you guys any indication of what team we're going to preview, but we're going to start with Delhi Capitals, and whether it'll be a fourth time lucky for them. They've made 3 finals and they've kind of bolstered their squad. But Jeet, my first question to you is, who's their captain? Is it going to be Jenny?
Potentially, yes, because I think they would have planned about this. They would have probably obviously thought of, getting Meg Lanning on board, and we could see with the way they were bidding for her. But they would have always had a plan B, which is to have somebody like Jamie take over in case they don't end up acquiring Meg Lanning, which is exactly what happened. And I think it makes a lot more sense as well, right? It's about succession planning. It's about a future Indian captain as well that we are potentially looking at over here. So out of all the options that they've got in the entire squad, I think they might probably pass over the baton now to Jemima Rodriguez. And I think that's probably going to be a fair call as well. Otherwise, I think they would have continued with Meg Lanning. I know it would be probably harsh again if they, end up making the finals and losing it. But look, it's a new captain, a fresh squad. So I think they're starting on a clean slate as well.
Okay, how much of a dilemma was it to probably add Laura Wolfhard in that chat in terms of captaincy? Probably going to open the batting for them. The top 3 looks devastating, but it's probably later on in their batting lineup, which will be problems. But on the captaincy front, any second guesses as a WPL fan?
Not really, to be honest. Even before the auction happened, I, in my head at least, was fairly certain that they would be looking at Jemmy as their leader. In fact, I wouldn't mind saying that I was a tad bit surprised that they even placed the bid for Meg Lanning, because I thought that they had moved past her. They would probably looking at some of the younger names available, because one of the biggest reasons why they arguably let go of Meg Lanning was not because she as a player wasn't contributing or she as a leader wasn't good enough. They were just probably thinking of the long term. The likes of Belsi, then Jemmy, Shefali, all of them are young. They would give them a good 8 to 10 years, if not more, going forward. So that's why McLaren probably is in her last legs. Argue this could potentially be her last cycle. So that's probably what worked against her. Laura Wolfart was an interesting choice in that she's fairly like for like for McLaren, a dynamic anchor who takes her time but has the ability to go gung ho from from ground zero if need be. She has that that caliber in her. What was actually a lot more surprising was the kind of openers they bid for before Laura. So Sophie Devine comes to mind. Of course, she was player number 2 that was picked from the hat, and they went after her up to 1.9 crores. Was not expecting that whatsoever. So I don't know what exactly the plans were, but fair to say that Jemmy was always priority one, because they went after Sophie Devine too, which meant had Devine come in, then Jemmy would have been the captain once again. So they were clear, they were flexible with their options, which is a good thing. But yeah, all in all, Laura Wolfart, not the worst of choices. The dilemma would potentially be not with her captaining the side, it would be with her featuring or not, because they've got a Lizelle Lee as well. If you want to consider, keep a bat who offers a different kind of dimension as captain, I think it'll be Jenny for sure.
Interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comments in terms of Delhi Capitals women cricket fans out there, Delhi Capitals fans, I should say, because Parchindal 100% would be looking at this season to win it. Jeet, when you look at their international firepower, Akshay mentioned a couple of names over there. Obviously, they've had Sutherland and they've had Marizanne Kapp. Chanel Henry, is that a name that could probably take the league by storm?
Uh, I won't rule it out because look, I mean, people were not too keen on Chanel Henry, right? It was only until last year when she kind of came onto the scene and the way she performed for the UP Warriors changed the perception around Chanel Henry. And since then, she has been finding gigs. She's got a WPBL gig as well now. So I think before that, it was not that sort of a case, where she was known or reputed as a big hitter, somebody who can probably give you wickets as well. She used to bowl 3-4 overs, but she was not that wicket-taking bowler either back then. But now things have changed a lot. But over here, her role is going to be quite different if she makes it to the playing 11, which is playing as a backup player to maybe Annabelle Sutherland or Marizanne Kapp. Whether she starts or not, I have my doubts about that. But I still feel it's a valuable addition because you still can't take away the fact that she can whack a few sixes at will. So she might have a good run, but we'll have to see whether she starts or not because I'm a little bit skeptical about that.
I'm going to ask both you boys in terms of second guessing the starting 11. But before I come to that, Akshay, very importantly, the domestic names and the Indian core that Delhi Capitals have now is actually kind of taking shape. So they've added Sri Charani, of course, which is brilliant. Your beloved Snehrana has gone up north as well. What do you make of their signings in terms of the Indian scheme of things? Because Shefali and Jemima are going to be poster girls for that franchise. But do you think now they're kind of developing a key Indian nucleus?
To be honest, if it were to be a one-line summary, I would say they've definitely, regressed or downgraded on what they had in the last cycle in terms of their Indian core. They had Arundhati Reddy, Shikha Pandey, Tita Sadhu, Radha Yadav to go with, of course, Shefali, Jimmy, and everyone. They've had to let go of all of them. They've managed to bring back Charni and Minumani, if you want to consider. Snehrana was a great acquisition, no doubt. But apart from that, I would say that the Indian core definitely leaves a lot more room to desire, especially considering the kind of names that actually went and sold. It felt like they weren't too keen on bring in certain kind of bowlers and certain backups, and that was a bit puzzling. They've got just the 3 spin options in their entire squad of 16, and that is as bizarre as it gets. I personally am not a very big fan of having just 3 spin. Three any kind of bowling options, let alone them being spinners. So that was a bit puzzling. And on top of that, all 3 of them are finger spinners. They've got no wrist spinners. An argument can be made that they made it to 3 finals with just the finger spinners. They never had a wrist spinner, never played a wrist spinner. Even in the first cycle, they did have Poonam Yadav for a couple of seasons. But the key difference then was they had Jess Jonathan, Shikha Pandey, Arundhati Reddy, Tita Sadhu. They had these Indian pacers who could do a lot of the damage. That's not the case anymore. They've got 0 Indian pacers. They've got one Very precocious talent in Nandini Sharma. Talented pace bowling all rounder. Again, from what little I saw of her, looked very pacey. She seemed to be rushing batters in almost every clip that I got to see of her, and seemed a more than handy batter herself. So that was also very pleasing to see, which is why begs the question, if they had scouted someone like a Nandini Sharma, who's a pace bowling all rounder, who'll bat lower in the lineup, why did you go for a Chinel Henry? For the same money, you could have potentially, bought someone like a Georgia Wareham, added a different dimension, a great finisher, proven finisher. So that's why it seemed very chaotic, to be honest. Like there were a lot of inconsistencies in their auction strategy, which is why I have my doubts.
Okay, so then Akshay, you first in terms of second guessing the 11. Is it in kind of penciled in at pretty much 7, 8 positions? Can you talk to me through those selections? And then Jeet, you can back him up or disagree or agree.
So in fact, before going to the 11, I actually wanted to know Jeet's thoughts. He mentioned that Chinel Henry is someone he's not entirely sold on whether she'll be starting for them or not. I personally think she will, just because 1.3 crores, she came in earlier and they were clear that they wanted her. So I think she will be starting. So what I want to know from Jeet is, if you're not starting with Chinel, are you going for another pacer? Are you going for Lizelle? How are you thinking of this?
Yeah, no. So how I was looking at this is potentially Nandini Sharma starting over her and probably fitting in somebody like Lucy Hamilton for a bit of variation. So right now the problem that they've got is Marizan Cap will be taking new ball, but to partner up with her, you can't look at Annabelle Sutherland. Nandini Sharma is slightly inexperienced as well. So maybe Lucy Hamilton, given her recent form and the fact that she has been really effective in the power play, could perhaps change things up. But generally, like I agree with you. I think having said that, the safer thing here will be to start with Chanel Henry. And basically, it's going to end up being a scenario where it's going to be an all overseas pace attack combining with an all Indian spin attack. So realistically, I mean, that should still happen. And also, not to forget that they don't really have somebody who can really find the boundaries at the back end of the batting lineup. So I think Chanel Henry kind of fits both these sides. So realistically, she should start, but I'm just giving an outside chance in case they want to tweak their combinations here.
Fair enough. In fact, my only concern with something like that is, like you said, if Lucy starts, that means Sneerana at number seven, Minu Mani at number eight, which is a fairly long tail, to be honest. Ideally, Sneerana at number eight is how I would look at it, and that too because of her pyrotechniques in the last year or so. Se pehle to at number nine is what I would have placed her. So that's my personal opinion. Coming to the 11, though, I think Laura would start, so it'll be Laura and Shifali. I've got Jemmy at number three. I've got Belsi Annabelle Sutherland at number four. Marizan Karp at number five. Against my wishes, Nikki Prasad at number six. No offense to her, great player, but I personally don't think she's there yet right now to be a full-time number six for a WPL side. And given the kind of talents Diya Yadav and Mamta Madiwala are turning out to be, both are supposed to be aggressive batters. I say supposed to be because I've not seen a lot of them myself. So I'll also have to sort of take that with a pinch of salt. But yeah, Nikki Prasad at number six, Chanel Hendy at number seven. 8, 9, 10, 11, I've got three spinners in Sneerana, Minumani, and Sri Charni. And number 11, of course, the only specialist number 11 in the tournament, Tanya Bhatia.
That's a hell of a lineup. And Jeet, I don't know if you agree with me when listening to that lineup. It spells like what Akshay said, the fact that there is a longish tail. But do you think because Jemmy and Laura Wolf are at the top, they are anchors in this format, they can probably just battle the 14th, 15th, and then kind of let their 4, 5, 6 come in and do the heavy lifting? Do you think they'll employ that modus operandi?
Well, that is quite likely because their options are quite limited. I know people have been quite boyish about somebody like Diya Yadav, but the fact is that she's quite young, she's still quite inexperienced, so you don't want to throw her into the ring right now. It's way too early. It's probably only on the wicket keeping forefront where I think there could be a few changes in case they don't want to look at Tanya Bhatia. Then maybe somebody like Mamta Madiwala can come into play, but I still feel it's unlikely. But more or less, I do agree with Akshay. Right now, the firepower is less, which means Semi will have to bat higher up the order at number three and kind of anchor it from there on. Annabelle Sutherland surprisingly will happen to be that middle order batter who will have to take over the mantle and find the boundaries or just score a little bit quickly, followed by Marzan Cap, and after which again there is a bit of a cliff where Nikki Prasad walks in, and she also is somebody who's not reputed to be a big hitter either. I mean, she has ended up with strike rates of around 90 even in the SWT20. So she's got the technique, but she's not really got the gears to kind of play in that sort of a role. But given the fact that she has been retained by DC, it's quite likely that she's going to start.
So just for clarity purposes, what Akshay named as his 11, any discrepancies there? Because he likes the batting idea of Chanel Henry at 7 and then Snehan and then the spinners as well. Do you see Lucy Hamilton popping in for you or not really?
No, no, realistically, I don't. I completely agree with what Akshay said. That's the exact playing 11 that even I have jotted down. So it should remain the same. It's, I think, pretty much on similar lines as, DC have had in the previous seasons as well, where all 11 can bat. I know we are looking at Tane Bhatia at number 11, but you cannot discount the fact that, she bats. So all can bat here. But I think this is more or less the correct playing 11. I don't see how Lizelle Lee is going to start over Laura Hulbert. They've got, I mean, there's a reason why Tanya Bhatia has been picked up. So Lizelle Lee is purely going to act as a backup. And then, again, it's my personal opinion, but you don't really want to have Shefali and Lizelle Lee opening. Both are slow runners. I get it. If they fire, DC will end up with, say, 60, 65, 70 runs at the end of the power play. But running between the wickets is an issue with them. If you are playing Lizelle Lee, then you're having Lizelle Lee as the wicket keeper. Now, you don't want her to be keeping to somebody like Marzan Cap with a new ball. We have seen how the WBB has gone. She has got some good returns with the bat, but the wicket keeping has been really bad. So it's a big risk to have her as your wicket keeper in the Indian conditions over here to some of the quality bowlers. So realistically, it will make sense for Laura Woolward to open, and it will also give DC that combination of an aggressive batter and a stable batter. So yeah, this is exactly the playing 11 that I've got as well.
And just one more thing to add over here with the bowling as well. Like they've got six bowling options, nothing more, nothing less. I'm not going to count Shafali's bowling in a tournament like this. Sure, people might say, "Arey, final mein 2 wicket liya tha," and all of that, but no. Here, she would go for runs more often than not. You've got six bowling options, including Minu Mani and Chinel Henry. Once again, Chinel Henry, again, no, it's not that I don't like her. I do like her as a player, but I think she functions best when she isn't your go-to option, either bowling or batting. She needs to be sort of a utility player. Ki isne jo bhi kiya, it has to be a surplus. Basically, I would like to use Chinel Henry the way CSK or MS Dhoni himself uses him in the IPL, in the sense, no pressure, just let them do their thing. Ideally, Chinel Henry should be at number 8. You need to have a proven finisher at number 7. That's when she would thrive. This is my personal opinion. Same with bowling. She cannot be a first choice new ball bowler. She cannot be one of your 3, 4, 5 bowlers, because she can go for runs and she's not one of those who is known to have smarts. I hope she proves me wrong. And that's my biggest concern. You've got six bowling options, Minu Mani included, Chinel Henry included. That really concerns me for sure. What do you think of that, Jeet?
In this case, I want to ask you one question. If you're not looking at Chinel Henry as your first choice pace bowler, then whom are you going to throw the new ball alongside Marzan Cap? Are you happy to go with a pace spin combination for every game? Or you're
No,
looking at
no.
somebody like Annabelle Sutherland?
Chennai itself, I'm saying strategy mein galat ho. I'm not saying they won't do it. I'm saying that which is why I was a bit perplexed that they decided to go ahead with this, wherein they were making Chinel Henry their first choice new ball bowler. I'm not sure how great a strategy it is, because they don't have any backup. I know Lucy Hamilton is a backup, but she is a pacer, like pace bowling all rounder bowler. But nahi yaar, she's batting at number 11 even in the WPL. So make no mistake. So you can't have Lucy Hamilton come in and expect your batting to function just as is. So Chinel Henry will start. She will be their first choice new ball bowler. But that's why you're giving oppositions a very good chance to come into the game. Like Cap, Belsi, and Charney. You've got 12 overs, and even Charney there, I would say, is not a lock because she's still young. She's still unproven. It'll take her some more time to grow into that role. But you're giving the opposition already 8 overs. यहाँ पे आप लोग मार सकते हो भाई. Like अगर if you know your game, you can easily attack the other 8 overs that DC has to offer.
In this case, even Annabelle Sutherland is somebody you can't bank upon because I know she has improved massively. She has come leaps and bounds in terms of her improvement over the last couple of years. But it's just that in the WPL, she has not been able to, kind of step up her game, whether it's with the batting or with the bowling. So it's not bankable 4 overs. I know she's going to end up bowling 4 overs, a full quota of 4 overs. But at the end of the day, even she's yet to prove herself, just like we've been talking about Phoebe Litchfield. So it's going to be a similar case. But just coming back to the spin attack here as well, I think you talked about the wrist spinner, which has been quite a bit of a surprise. There was Poonam Yadav in the initial years, but she barely played. So they've never played with a wrist spinner, which I get that. But when it came to the spin attack, the finger spinners in particular, there was Jess Johnson and Radha Yadav used to be kind of the second string spinner, used to chip in if required. Now the things are very different. Now their only left arm spinner is Sri Charni. There is nobody else in the squad. And their two right arm off spinners, Meenu Mani again has been like that second choice spinner as well in the past. So what happens if somebody like Sri Charni gets injured? Now I'm not talking about long-term injury. She'll probably wake up not feeling well. She'll be ruled out for say 2 or 3 games because of a niggle. What happens at that point in time? You have absolutely no spinners. So their playing 11 will rely upon only two spinners, Sneh Rana and Meenu Mani, and will probably have to look at Shefali Verma, and that's not ideal either. So quite a few surprising choices. It was a very weird auction, I should say, for the Delhi Capitals here. That spin attack is quite unconvincing to me as well.
Okay, interesting. I mean, good to hear the thoughts. Good that great minds think alike, at least in the WPM realm of Delhi Capitals between Akshay and Jeet. And if you guys are liking this Bat Baller Bet episode, please subscribe and tell a friend. Lots more to build up to that tournament next year. Right, sticking with spin, but a team who actually knows how to use their spin as well is UP Warriors. Let's focus on them, Akshay. First of all, to you here. How happy are you with their business? And just that top order just already looks breathtaking with Phoebe Litchfield there, Meg Lanning there. They could throw in a Deandra Doughton if they like. How do you think they're going to fare with the business that they've done in the auction?
They've done a good job, no doubt. They look markedly better than the last auction cycle. That goes without saying. And I'd put out a tweet a while before the auction that, with the purse that UP Warriors have, they need special skill. It takes special talent to mess it up from there. So they were always playing a winning game. So there was no coming bad out of that. But I still believe they could have done much better. That way, they've definitely done a good job, no doubt. But they could have done much better. Some of their choices, even here, seem very surprising because they've left some very obvious, structural holes in their 11, if that makes sense. So that was a bit surprising. So with the batting lineup, of course, like you mentioned, you've got the stability of Meg Lanning, and that was a good buy, good acquisition. When it comes to captaincy, of course, there's a fair argument to be made for Meg Lanning to be made captain or Deepti Sharma to be made captain. Either ways, I don't think it'll matter too much. But yeah, when you look at some of the names they picked up, Sophie Eccleston at 85 lakhs, personally, I think was one of the steals of the auction. And then getting her at that price, first of all, I don't know what the other four teams are doing. Matlab, how could you let that happen? But yeah, 85 lakhs there, 3.2 for Deepti, getting both of them for about 4 crores, 5 lakhs is exactly why they would have let go of these two in the first place, to be able to save a couple of crores, if not more, and they were able to do just that. But okay, before I get to the bad things, let me talk about the good things because I've been speaking about their minuses for a while now. The bowling also, on paper, you've got Kranti Gaud, you've got the experience of Shikha Pandey and Asha Shobna and Sophie Eccleston and Deandra Doughton and Deepti Sharma. That's a lot of experience to have. You've got the X factor of Kranti Gaud, in the power play, in the middle overs as well. We've seen that in the past. So that way it does look very good. Once again, personally, I think 7 is the ideal number when it comes to, how many bowling options a side needs to have. 6 is where I feel you're one too low because we've seen in the WPL, bowlers can have off days. We've seen the likes of Shikha Pandey go for runs, Asha Shobna go for runs, Kranti Gaud go for runs. Deepti Sharma herself, by the way, she's not really been inexpensive when it comes to the WPL. So having 7 just gives you that cushion. You know what? We have another option that we can turn to. And that's where I felt probably they could have added one more, but even then, if you're going ahead with 6 options, this is arguably the best sort of set of 6 options you could have gone for, or the most experienced set of 6 options you could have gone for. Batting also looks very decent. You've got Meg Lanning, you've got Deepti Sharma who can be those stable anchors. You've got Phoebe Litchfield, you've got Kiran Navgiri, you've got Shweta Sehrawat who's been in great form in the domestic circuit for Delhi. So that way they've got a nice balance of youth and experience of, X factor potential and bankable batters. So it does look good. And I've not even spoken about Deandra Doughton, the world boss. So all in all, it's definitely looking good. They've got match winners in the batting department, match winners in the bowling department. Maybe not so much in the keeping, but even then, far fewer minuses than pluses. That's how I'd put it.
Okay, fairly summed up. Varied attack, Jeet, and I'm guessing you agree with that as well. He mentioned all the names there. The one which, of course, caught the eye for Indian fans during the World Cup was Pratika Rawal. Obviously, sad by the injury that she missed out in the final. But do you think she can slot in here, or do you think there are just too many big names that she might have to sit out?
No, I think she'll probably sit out. First of all, there are injury concerns, and we don't know whether she's going to be fit or not because we know the injury that she had and the extent of it during the World Cup. So she's unlikely to start. I mean, they probably kept her in case they need her at the back end of the tournament and if she's fit. Otherwise, I don't see how she's going to start because I think most of them pick themselves in this particular squad. So I don't think she's going to start. In fact, here the question is whether Harleen Deol starts or not, and that is going to be an interesting thing because the way they've kind of stacked up the squad with the number of batters who bat in the top four, it's going to be really hard to squeeze in somebody like even Harleen Deol. But given the fact that Abhishek Nair at the start of the auction, or at least after the marquee set, mentioned how UP Warriors have already got a wicket keeper in the playing 11 that we don't know of, makes things really interesting. This came before Shipra Giri was picked. So whether they are looking at Phoebe Litchfield or they're looking at Shweta Sehrawat, we don't know about that. But if they do end up looking at one of these two players as the wicket keeper, only then can Harleen Deol slot in number three. So we'll have to wait in order to find out what that mystery is.
I want to obviously pick your 11s, but in just a bit, Akshay, is there an obvious MVP in their squad? Obviously, people will look at Deepti Sharma. You mentioned Eccleston over there, who is just brilliant in terms of this format. Or do you feel there could be one of these Australian girls again to have a big say for the UP Warriors?
I mean, you would be foolish to bet against that. Meg Lanning's been in scintillating form in the WPBL as we speak, and I'm expecting her to continue that in the WPL. And she'll also have a thing or two to prove, right? Like, for whatever it's worth, she has been let go of by her previous side, a side that she took to the final in each of the initial three seasons. So, given that, and also given the fact that, entering a new side, a side that's never made it to the final before, so there'll be that challenge as well that she would want to take part in. They've got a lot of contenders. It's hard to pick a name right now because it's still very early. Phoebe Litchfield is another name. She's yet to light up the IPL, but it's only a question or a matter of when and not if. So I'm expecting her to have at least one good season in the next cycle, that's for sure. So it'll be interesting to see once again. It also depends on where they use her. Phoebe Litchfield, of course, she can open, she can bat in number five, number six if needed. But we've spoken about this off record, we've spoken about this on social media as well, that we know Phoebe Litchfield at three and Phoebe Litchfield outside three. There's a very clear gap in how she functions and how she operates. And considering the kind of names that UP Warriors themselves have, it is evident that Phoebe at three would actually make a world of difference to them. But the problem is, like Jeet mentioned, there's also Harleen Deol, whose numbers at three and outside three paint a picture. Now you can't have two number threes, unfortunately, which means I personally would sort of rest or bench Harleen Deol. Who, first of all, I don't even know. I think they place the bid. I mean, this is just my personal opinion. This is not some what kya bolte, nothing objective about it. But I think they just raise that paddle, assuming that Gujarat will either RTM or do something about it. The fact that nothing happened and they ended up with, or she ended up with them, was probably a bit surprising to them too.
Okay, let's see what your 11s look like, boys, because it's that fascinating jigsaw puzzle at the top of the order where UP Warriors will have to sort out. You guys have second guessed and probably given us a hint or two how they kind of swing. First of all, Jeet here, 11. I mean, there's Kiran Navgere as well, who's been pretty decent in this tournament in the last in the first couple of years. But having said all of it, what is your gut feel? And let's see if Akshay agrees in a minute or two.
A gut feel is going to be really different. So, judging by some of their talks about the wicket keepers and everything, I think they don't have a choice but to open with Lanning and Phoebe Litchfield. It may not be ideal, but you never know. I mean, Litchfield has the potential of actually making use of the power play, but she has not done that previously. That's a different thing. But they have no choice here. They have to open with that left hand, right hand Aussie combination here. And that is the only thing that's going to allow Harleen Deol to play. Because if you have signed up Harleen Deol, a player who plays for India, and you bench her, I don't think that's a good look, right? I mean, Pratika Rawal is injured, so forget that. So Harleen Deol is going to fit
Akshay is already making his points to combat you.
He's not going to agree with me on this, but I don't think they have a choice here. So Harleen Deol is going to bat at number three. Number four is going to be Kiran Navgire. Number five is going to be Deandra Doughton. Number six is going to be Shweta Sehrawat. Number seven is going to be Deepti Sharma. So ideally, I would have wanted Deepti to bat number three and number four, but the way the squad has been assembled, it's going to be really hard to fit her in the top four, top five, unless if you get rid of Harleen Deol. So number seven, Deepti Sharma. Number eight will be Sophie Eccleston. Nine will be Shikha Pandey. 10 will be Asha Shobna, and 11 will be Kranti God. So that's how I'm looking at it. There could be a few
Wow.
tweaks here and there, but based on what they were mentioning during the press conference, I think this is what I can pick up.
I mean, you look at that batting order, Akshay, and I think he's kind of right, but I'm pretty sure you have your reservations about Harleen, purely because she looks like a little mouse compared to the other tigers in that lineup, with all respect to Harleen, because she brings a lot of value to the game with the field. I don't know where you're going to disagree, but I think you have two or three positions where you might come in and be like, they might do things differently?
So with Jeet, of course, I get where Jeet is coming from. This is like the 11 that I've thought of. First of all, let me make it clear. This is what I think is their best 11, not what I think UP Warriors will actually field. Also because I don't know a lot about, Selekar and all and how she actually operates or how Abhishek Nair will operate in the WPL to sort of try and predict that. Which is why my 11 would be a bit different from Jeet, firstly. In terms of the constants, Meg Lanning starts, of course. Sophie Eccleston and I Tate and everyone else below. That's the constant between me and him. The players more or less remain the same. It's the order, of course, that changes for me. I personally have Meg Lanning opening with Kiran Navgire. I've got Phoebe Litchfield at number 3. I've got Deepti Sharma at number 4. Shweta Sehrawat at number 5 and Deandra Doughton at number 6. For me, why I think this order is important is also because it is personally important to me at least that players bat in positions that they are best equipped to, that they are good at, that naturally comes to them. And that's where Phoebe at 3, Deepthi at 4, Shweta at 5. That's what Shweta has been doing in the domestic circuit as well this season. So you could see that. And Deandra at 6, of course, Deandra Doughton is an aggressive batter. She's an X factor. It doesn't matter where you play her. She's got her game fixed in the sense how she wants to go about it. And that's where I feel my 3, 4, 5, 6 would be like this. Of course, I do agree, which means at number 7, they will need a wicket keeper, and the only option they have is Shipra Giri. I would be very surprised and very stupefied, to be honest, if Phoebe Litchfield or Shweta Sehrawat is made wicket keeper. And it's not down to Jeet. I of course disagree with Jeet, but I also know Jeet isn't a fan of it. He's just talking about what they might do. It's not what he wants them to do. Yeah, it'll be beyond bizarre for you to go ahead with a Phoebe Litchfield or a Shweta Sehrawat as your first choice wicket keeper when you have a mega auction, when you've got 14.5 crores. That's I don't know what to make of that, especially when you take into context that Elisa Healy went and sold. Why would you do that? I don't know.
Okay, so basically Akshay has gone for right, right, left, left, right, right. And then it's the importance of what he said, bat them in the positions. But then Jeet, on the other hand, that's the predicament in terms of T20 cricket, and the fact that you just want a left, right. You just want to have matchups and be flexible. Right, guys, finally, because before we move on to the other teams, where do you think UP can finish? Let's be honest, because they've kind of blown hot, blown cold. Is this their year, Akshay? You mentioned Abhishek Nair getting the gig. There's, of course, the veteran Lisa Stelaker probably pulling the strings in some element. Is this their year, Jeet?
I won't rule it out because when there were talks about the retentions and mega auctions and everything, at that point in time, I did read an article which said that UP Warriors and Gujarat Giants are on board for a mega auction, but the other three franchises aren't. And that was very obvious. It was for a reason. Come to today, when the WPL mega auction has actually taken place, I feel it's UP Warriors and Gujarat Giants have actually ended up with better squads than the other three sides. So that's how it stacks up right now. So they've definitely had a very good auction. And I feel they look a lot more better than what they did in the previous 3 seasons. So look again, I mean, having a good squad doesn't necessarily equate to winning the tournament. It's all about tactics as well, the kind of playing 11s and so many things, right? It's a combination of lots of things over here. So that's also an area where they had gone wrong previously, but that was under a different coach altogether. What Abhishek Nair does with a good squad, we don't know yet. He has the potential. We've heard a lot of good things about him, but one part of the job is done. The other part remains, which is the in-game tactics and everything, including the batting order or whatever. So if they nail that part, then I wouldn't rule out at least them to make it to the finals. Yeah.
A big call. And I'm pretty sure our good old friend Nikhil Popa will be watching this and agreeing with Jeeto there because he's a massive UP Warriors fan. But having said that, guys, 2 down, 3 to go. Just a reminder to all our viewers watching this. Please, it's the final month of 2025. Give us some love. We've done a lot of content. There's more to come on cricket.com. I know you guys might think we're under maintenance. We're just doing shits and giggles every week, but we're trying to amble through and there's bigger plans. We can promise you that. Right, Akshay, coming on to you then, and I'm not going to go down the RCB realm just as yet. I know a lot of people watching this would love to know your mind about what they have picked and what you think they will do in the next year. But I want to, of course, focus on Mumbai Indians because essentially they could be gunning for their 3rd title, which is remarkable in the 4 seasons already. Akshay, I'll start with you. Just your biggest takeaway from MI and what they've done in the auction.
Yeah, I mean, their strategy was the most obvious of the five teams. They were very clear. They just wanted to buy back as many of their players as possible. They, in fact, have managed to bring back 10 of the 11 players that featured in the last WPL final, just going on to show what they wanted to do. And the fact that they went up to 3 crores for Amelia Kerr, who was that was the biggest surprise for me at the auction. I know a lot of other people are like, Arey, Amelia Kerr, she's one of the biggest names, a stalwart of women's cricket, so to say, and all of it all said and done, even then, I felt 3 crores was probably 2 crores more than what I would have, as a team owner or as part of a think tank would have wanted to pay her. So that's my personal thing. Apart from that, they went after Sajna, got her for 75 lakhs. They bought back Saika Ishaq. A couple of interesting new buys. One was Poonam Khemnar, a player that I think hasn't gotten her due. She's shown glimpses of what she can actually do at this level, but for some reason, UP Warriors did not trust her enough to give her a consistent run. I'm hoping that she does decently this time around. Triveni Vashish is another player that I'm looking forward to from what little I could see. Tall left hand batter, a left arm spinner, very simple, easy, replicable action. She's great off the back foot, she's great on the front foot, looked very stable with her pace and everything. I really hope she gets a consistent run, but the problem is, given the kind of match winners they have stacked up in or at the top, the likes of Sanskriti, the likes of Triveni, they'll always be panting for an opportunity. So it's not going to be easy for sure. But interesting side, it definitely worked for them in the first auction cycle, but it also worked for a reason. UP Warriors and Gujarat Giants, both of them had shot themselves in the foot with a very bad auction in 2023, which meant they were just suffering throughout the auction cycle. That's not the case anymore. The other four teams aren't just as weak. In fact, in different ways, you can say that each of the other four teams on their day can actually defeat Mumbai Indians, which wasn't the case earlier. And which is why I feel this strategy, while valid, while understandable, might not suffice this time. I know people might say Haley Matthews, Natseva Brandt, Amelia Kerr, Shabnam Ismail. सारे नाम बहुत बढ़िया है, सारे नाम अच्छे हैं, but the other teams have also upgraded. So I think Mumbai Indians, in a bit to try and get back their team, they were probably a bit too myopic, a bit too short term in how they went about these things. But fair enough. I mean, once again, if all these match winners decide to do well, then they can just win the tournament on the basis of these 4 5 players.
Right. So interesting thoughts from Akshay and MI. Ajit, obviously, your two pence in terms of what the business that they've acquired. 10 out of 11 players to get back. I mean, that's a sensational start from Akshay. Just to give context, but what is that other thing that they can add to their already star part kitty?
Mhm. So one another interesting thing here is that look, in the first 3 seasons, I feel MI have defied the odds. Whenever you look at women's cricket in any format, or at least franchise cricket, you want to have Aussies on board every time because you know that they are match winners. But MI have ignored these Australians for the first 3 seasons. They've had Heather Graham on the bench, but they've won 2 titles without the Aussies. Now, the one shift that we are seeing is there is no Charlotte Edwards. She's out. In comes an Aussie, and in comes two Aussie players as well alongside the normal names that we generally see. There is Nicola Carey who has made it in, and there is Millie Illingworth who have made it in as well. So yes, it's true. Like they might end up acting like a backup, but we've got two Aussies finally in the Mumbai Indian side, so that's going to be an interesting one. But otherwise, I do agree on Akshay's part that other teams have kind of really amped it up as far as the squad strength is concerned. But Mumbai Indians wanted to stick to their winning formula. They won 2 out of 3 WPL seasons. So you want to stick to whatever has worked for you. And that's exactly what they've done. You look at the top wicket takers, there is Millie Kerr who features, there is Haley Matthews. These are top 2 wicket takers in the history of the WPL. And there is Nat Silverbrunt as number 5 as well. Same thing with the bat. Nat Silverbrunt is the topper as far as the most runs are concerned. There is Harmanpreet Kaur, there is Haley Matthews as well in the mix. So while a lot of the performances rely upon these 4 or 5 players, I feel it's still a decent sort of a squad that they've kind of come up with. A few chinks here and there, but again, I mean, these guys know how to win the WPL, so you can't quite rule them out as such. It's just that they have probably been affected on the wicket keeping forefront. Yes, I mean, they would have probably gone back to Yastika Bhatia had she been completely fit. But given that there are injury concerns and availability concerns as well over Yastika, I mean, they probably have penciled Kamalini to open alongside Haley Matthews. So that's the only thing that has really changed. Maybe somebody like Poonam Khemnar might also enter the picture in the playing 11, but otherwise they are just backing to whatever has worked for them in the previous seasons. And I think that's a fair way to go about it.
Yeah, if you look at their team and if you look at the other four teams in the WPL, every fixture which will be played out in the 2026 season, do you feel like MI start favorites automatically because they just know how to win? They've done it. They've kind of flexed their muscle and they've had a better head-to-head record with pretty much every team. So do you think again for the fourth season running, MI just start favorite in every game?
No, not this time. This time, I would be a lot more bullish on the other sides. Previously, of course, like we discussed, those match winners, of course, doing their role. It isn't a very sustainable approach. It's worked for them in the past, true, but it's not an approach you would want to go ahead with. You know what? We'll have just three or four players who will do 90-95% of the job, and the others will just be placeholders in the 11. It doesn't work that way. And the fact that they've managed to do it in the first cycle does show that it has been an effective approach for them. Will it be sustainable enough? I've always had my questions and doubts on it, and I'm hoping this is the season where we see why a side like this cannot always keep functioning. That sort of problem come to the fore. So I don't think they start favorites for me. They could still potentially make it to the top three, but I think, there is a reasonable chance that they don't even finish in the top three for the first time in 2026. And I'll be there to see that only because I want to see new winners, only because I want to see new teams, come to the party, rise to the occasion. But yeah, I don't think they start favorites for me.
You mentioned a name there, Jeet and Kamalini, who was definitely the find of their season last year. Obviously, fag in, and she had a few things which showed us that this girl has a potential. Any names that they've acquired this year? I think one of you guys mentioned Vishishta's name over there. There could be the Australians who, if they feature, could have something to say. What's that one particular player to watch out for in the MI squad? Not the obvious names, but an X factor as such.
Look, I don't think she's going to start, but if I'm talking about an overseas player, I would kind of bank upon somebody like Nicola Carrier. Like, she's been fairly underrated given her performances for quite a few years in the domestic circuit. Back home, I understand it's quite different over there, but I think she has been really, really valuable as a player, and it's quite surprising that she has not actually made the cut into the WPL so far. But yeah, I feel she's got a very, very handy batting role to play in the middle order. She chips in with four overs, she takes the new ball, and she's got the variations to succeed after the power play as well. But when it comes to the Indian names, not talking about the obvious names, I'll probably say Sanskriti Gupta. This is probably one of the names that really impressed me the last time around. I hadn't watched her a lot before that, so it was in the WPL where I ended up getting one of my initial looks of Sanskriti, and she was really impressive with the way she was operating with the ball. She had the smarts at such a young age, and then with the bat as well, she just came out of the back end and started whacking it from ball one. The intent was there. The clarity of her mind was there. So it was really impressive as well. This time again, I think she's going to play one of the vital roles for her side because that spin attack, I know there is Haley Matthews, Amelia Kerr. Saika Shak, I don't know whether she's going to start or not. She had a very good first season, but after that, there has been a massive drop off. So I still feel Sanskriti has a big role to play in this particular side, and she's probably one of the names to watch out for.
Let's see if she features in 11, Akshay, and Jeet can, of course, debate him after. I'm pretty sure it's more straightforward than, say, a UP one that you guys decided a few minutes ago. You mentioned the 10 out of 11 players in the last year final. So the nuts and bolts are similar, Akshay.
Yeah, I would. I have included each of those 10 players, even Saika Ishak, although personally I'm not a very big fan of her. And I hope that Triveni Vashishta does get a chance above her, at least at some point in the tournament, if not right at the beginning. So those 10 are, of course, a part of it. The only change is, of course, Poonam Khemnar comes into the setup. She will add a bit of batting value if there ever is a need for that. I've right now slotted her at number 8, number 9, only because there aren't any positions vacant at the top. So it's Haley Matthews and Kamalini to open, Natsava Brandt at 3, Harman at 4, Amelia Kerr at 5, Aman at 6, and then 7 you've got Sajna, 8 you've got Sanskriti, 9 you've got Khemna. They can play around however they want. 10 Saika Ishaq, 11 Shabnam Ismail.
Amazing. I think that one player for me in that squad, even though it's not breathtaking, but what I saw of her in the World Cup, Amanjot Kaur, I think is going to add massive value with both bat and ball. I know there's so many other great players in that team, but Jeet, where do you stand in that? Because Akshay's gone pretty straightforward. He's not, been Akshay about this MI lineup. Do you agree with him and his thoughts?
Yeah, you cannot be Akshay with this because it's rather straightforward. Because you look at the backup options in the squad, we know that none of them are going to really start. You can't have a Raila Firdos starting over Kamalini, or you could have Nicola Carey or Millie Illingworth starting over their four overseas mainstays who have got the job done previously. So it's a rather straightforward one. The only bone of contention is indeed Saikai, Shak, and Triveni. But yeah, I won't be surprised if they continue to back somebody like Saikai Shak with Julan also being in the squad. So it's rather straightforward over here.
Okay, slightly controversial question to end this MI chat for both you boys. Is it fair to say the larger WPL fan fraternity wants a WPL final without MI featuring in it? Do you think that can happen this time?
I'll go with this. I do believe, yeah, it's possible. And I do think that, the fraternity in general would want to see something like that. Not because they hate MI or something like that. It's not coming from a place of dislike for MI. It's simply because you want newer teams, newer players to come to the fore. It's as simple as that, of course. And also, yeah, you always are rooting for the underdog, right? MI has been the side, the ownership group, the kind of players they have. And it's just those 4 5 players bullying the rest of the tournament. So, of course, it would make for very poetic viewing should, Gujarat or UP topple them and lift the trophy.
Jeet?
Yeah, I agree with them. I think it's more about wanting to see somebody new feature in the finals this time around. I think people are, I won't say fed up. I think that's probably stretching it a bit too much. But the fact that they've already won 2 titles, I think people will be either keen on seeing DC this time finally lift it, or some other team, jumping in, somebody like UP Warriors or GG. I won't say RCB since they won it. It's probably one of those two teams featuring alongside maybe DC. But I think, yeah, it's going to be a new winner that most of the people who are looking will be looking forward to.
Okay, let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. MI fans or other WPL fans, and how it's going to unravel for them. Whether they make the final or not, they're definitely going to play the opening game against RCB. And let's, of course, take that in terms of the segue for discussing the Royal Challengers Bangalore and their WPL auction. Akshay, I'll start with you. No better place. You mentioned it in the WhatsApp chat that Anya Shapsol and Mano were cooking and, of course, doing all things right. And man, I honestly, I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to say anything, but you look at that lineup. I don't think I've got conviction ever in WPL history with a lineup like that. Grace Harris, Pooja Vastrakar. I've not even mentioned Lorden Bell. So you start and you tell me what is your scale of optimism on a scale of 1 to 10 with RCB's auction business. Be honest. Do not be a modest, pessimistic fan.
Before I get to that, I really hope someone clips this and sends this to, the RCB team. They should know how big a fan they have in Avnish. I mean, I don't think there's anyone been so excited about this RCB side. Again, see, the thing is, I won't say they've got it entirely wrong or something, and this is not me being pessimistic. In all fairness, I did believe they started off really well with some of the bids they placed. They went after Sophie Eccleston up to 80 lakhs, fair price considering their budget. They went after Laura Wolfard. They went after Phoebe Litchfield until their price point, which was good, which indicated clarity. They knew what their purse is, till what level can they go after certain players. Sophie Devine 95 lakhs, Laura 1, Phoebe 1.1, if I remember correctly, which were fair price points. And then they got Georgia Wall at 60 lakhs, which I don't think was too bad a buy. They got Nadine Leclerc and Radha Yadav at 65 lakhs apiece. Not too bad a buy once again. I might have my reservations about Radha Yadav, the player, but at that price point, I would happily take her. She's an India player, great fielder, adds value with the bat and ball for what it's worth. It's only after that, again, Avnish is extremely bullish on Lauren Bell, which is why I have to probably be a bit more diplomatic about it. See, I felt they could have gone after a better option compared to Lauren Bell. Not that she isn't good enough, a great new ball bowler for sure. Usme bhi her abilities have been on the wane. She's developed that outswinger now, and after that, you've seen that her in swingers have sort of lost its efficacy. She's also developed a slow one to become a lot more of an all-phase bowler, and all of that is true. But she's not been just as effective, was my personal belief, and especially at that price point, the fact that they bought her at 90 lakhs. Had it been a base price pick at 40, 50 lakhs, I would have still understood. At 90 lakhs, you buy her, you see a Kim Garth go at 50 lakhs, and I personally think Kim Garth is a much better option. Not just with the ball, she can also add value with the bat for what it's worth. So that's where I felt they could have done better. But you could see the Anya Shrubsole connection. And I for one, I'm not. I usually don't think too much of coaches or captains going after players they like, because there's a reason. They need that familiarity. They like that comfort, because that's when they can also do well. That's when they know they can create an environment where everyone thrives. So it's understandable. I'm not going to diss on that. And Shrubsole is already a very good acquisition, so to say, when it comes to the backroom staff, a great coach to have, a great bowling coach, importantly, to have. So I could live with it. And then they went after Lindsay Smith, which I don't know. I honestly don't know what to make of that, because you have a lot of Indian left arm spinners available in the auction, and I'm not talking about the proven ones. There were the likes of Vaishnavi Sharma, Parunika Sisodia, the unproven ones, Ayushi Shukla, who they could have gone after and potentially groomed and scouted and made them into something of note. But they chose a Lindsay Smith. A 1D player, and that she's just a bowler. She can't offer a lot of value with the bat. And bowling, maybe she is a power play and middle kind of bowler. I know she bowls at the death in the 100 and all. I don't know to what extent will RCB use her over here, assuming she gets to play a game or two. That was a bit of a bizarre move. And from there, they were always playing catch up. But I think they've done reasonably well to salvage that situation. Pooja Vastrakar at 85 lakhs, Arundhati at 75 lakhs. I think those are two very reasonable buys, especially if Pooja is fit. The kind of balance she will lend to the side, I think, will go a long way in helping RCB play the 11 that they would want to. So, all in all, it's not the worst of 11s. They've got a lot of utility options. They've got 8, 9 bowling options if you're going to include Grace Harris and Georgia Wall. They've got batting up to number 11 if you count Arundhati's batting, which is not too bad at all. This, like I had mentioned off air, I mean on X, this is in essence an antithesis to MI's approach. MI has stuck to 3, 4 match winners, and then they've got placeholders. On the other hand, RCB has gone for 8, 9 utility players and just 1 or 2 match winners in, say, Pez and Smriti Mandana. So it is interesting what they've done over here. And I, for one, I do have a soft corner for such sides where everyone gets to contribute, where you've got specific roles, specific players for those specific roles. So I do like it that way. But you're really depending a lot on Arundhati stepping up as a leader, on Pooja being fit enough, on Grace Harris, Georgia Wall performing consistently, Radha Yadav adding value with the ball, Prema Rawat, who's yet unproven, adding value with the ball. So there's a lot of ifs and buts over there, which is why I'm a bit concerned. But all in all, on paper, this is not the worst of sides for sure.
Okay, food for thought. Jeet, I mean, when RCB did win their WPL title, you look at that journey, and a lot of players had incredible match performances. They chipped in various points of time in the season. You look at someone like Asha Shobna, Sophie Molyneux, who did a great job, and forget Pez and Smriti for a second. Do you think it'll be that similar team going into this season? Because, yup, they've got Pooja Vastrakar, they've got Grace Harris. Akshay mentioned the batting depth there, the bowling depth. It looks like a 2x or a 3x upgrade on the champions team that they were.
Uh, I'm not sure whether they look like
Or is
such a
that
big
is that
upgrade.
just me being skewed bias RCB view?
Both of us are trying to be very polite here. Avnish is
No,
trying to sell
Avnish,
RCB the product.
Avnish started
100%.
the show saying that he's buzzing about RCB's chances this time around, and I was quite doubtful right at that point in time. But look, it's not such a bad squad, that's for sure. But it's just that some of their decision making has been weird in terms of the bowling attack that they've ended up, stacking up here. There are injury concerns over Pooja Vastrakar. Manulan did say that there is a bit of a insight that they've got from BCCI that she's likely to be fit within the next couple of weeks. But how match fit would she be? How much game time she would have had? Zero. So a lot will depend upon her fitness. Even the combinations are dependent upon Pooja Vastrakar's fitness, if I may put it that way. But otherwise, I still feel that bowling attack is the one sketchy area for them. Batting is sorted. They've got Georgia Wall, who may potentially be opening, or they may go to Grace Harris. But it's fairly well sorted. Smriti Mandana, Georgia Wall, Grace Harris, whoever. Elise Perry always steps up. Richa Ghosh is fantastic. But that bowling attack is really, really weird because I know there is Vastrakar, who will be just coming out of an injury. There is Arundhati Reddy, who will probably be your second or third choice pacer in the playing 11. And then I think that pace attack is very, very weird because I know Perry has done well previously, but she's been off color for a very long time. Whether it's the WPL, barring that one spell that she bowled, or the WBBL or the 100 or whatever you want to consider, she has been off color for a long time. So, how much are you going to rely upon her pace bowling? Which means they'll probably need a spearhead. When it comes to spearhead, there is only one, which is Lauren Bell. Now, Lauren Bell, look, I would prefer the Lauren Bell version 1 or Lauren Bell version 2. That hooping in swing bowler who used to have those leg cutters was much better than the one that we have got right now. I know she has become a lot more consistent in terms of her lines. Her pace has gone up significantly as well. But that threat that you generally get with the new ball has kind of diminished. I know the stats may not back me up over here, but she's now somebody who's a lot more successful at the back end, given her slower ball variations, the back of the hand and everything, than with the new ball. So that new ball again remains really weird. Then we come to the spin attack. They've got Shriyanka Patil. I think she has been phenomenal, but even she has been a little off color with the injuries and everything. But to back Shriyanka Patil, there is a Radha Yadav. So how much can you rely upon Radha Yadav with 4 overs? So that also becomes a big question. And then they'll have to rely upon part-time spin of either Grace Harris or Georgia Wall. So that is where I feel, they might probably look to tweak the combinations a bit. That is where maybe a Lindsay Smith might come into play, take the new ball like she has been doing for a long time now, even the WPL, and act as that lead spinner that they need. So that's where maybe Nadine de Klerk will have to sit out. But that bowling attack, all in all, is still very unconvincing to me. Like, I mean, if RCB are winning games, it's primarily going to be their batting.
Okay, interesting. Akshay, two questions to you, random ones before we get into the 11. Do you think Arundhati Reddy is this upgrade on Renuka Singh Thakur, who you predicted rightly would go to Gujarat, and we'll talk about them in a bit? And secondly, uh, when you just talk about essentially even RCB's international choices, you mentioned it there right now, Jeet, where Nadine might have to sit out. Is Wold, Perry, Bell, and Grace Harris a start? I mean, those are your four starters. How do you look at it?
The thing is, see, I can see merit in why a Lauren Bell should start. But personally, I'm also a fan of having variety in my lineup. That's my personal belief, which is why I would always like. I'm assuming if Bell comes in, then someone like a Prema Rawat will have to miss out because they'll have to slot in an Indian batter too to make up for the loss of the opener in Wall. So I don't think RCB going ahead with just two spin options in Shriyanka and Radha would help them one bit. Although I see Lauren Bell adding a lot of value, which is why if anything, the more I've thought about RCB squad, I think Lindsay Smith has a greater chance of starting. Rather than Lauren Bell, simply because Radha Yadav, like Jeet mentioned, like I also earlier mentioned, great option to have in the squad, but she can't be your first choice spinner. So that's where potentially, like Jeet said, if they decide to not play Wall and play an Indian batter, let's say they can open with Grace Harris, they can have Dayal and Hemlata at number 4. I would go ahead with Lindsay Smith in place of Radha Yadav instead of bringing in Lauren Bell instead of Prema Rawat. That way, they would still have that balance. They would still have three spin options, all three of different types. So you can still use those matchups. You can still bring the surface, the dimensions into the picture. And of course, goes without saying, the pace attack in Pooja, Arundhati, Nadine de Klerk, and Elise Perry, it's a serviceable pace attack. And I'm being polite here when I say serviceable. It definitely cannot be called good. It's an interesting pace attack. On that day, they can potentially get whacked and not potentially. So basically, this is like SRH of 2025. Batters can score 250, bowlers can concede 300. Now it's up to the bowlers whether they can defend those high totals the batters come up with. Coming back to your question, sorry for the digression. Is Arundhati an upgrade over Renuka? Considering WPL performances, I would say yes, simply because Arundhati has been a lot more effective in the WPL, but that does not mean she's a better bowler than Renuka. I'm still expecting Renuka to have a good season in the next year, or it could potentially be for Gujarat itself. So, but not a bad replacement at all. If you let go of Renuka and told me कि यार Arundhati आ रही है इसके बदले, I would have happily taken her. So I personally still do rate her, unlike a lot of other people. So that's my personal thing. But yeah, this is how I would probably look at that bowling attack right now.
Okay, Jeet, Akshay, you know the drill. Cast times in terms of the crystal ball selections. Jan 9th, MIRCB, what is their starting 11 that day? Akshay, it's only fair start with you with the RCB allegiance. So, do you have Hemalata as 4? Do you have Georgia Wold? Talk to me about your selections.
So to begin with, given that Malu also spoke about, wanting to go ahead with this aggressive approach that we saw in the IPL, pay rich dividends and all of it, I think they're better off just sticking to their strengths, which means if you are going to outbat a side, make sure you have a batting lineup that can do that. So I've gone ahead with Wall instead of Hemlata. So Smriti and Wall to start. I've gone ahead with Perry. I've gone ahead with Grace Harris at number 4, which I think is one or two positions higher. She's usually a finisher at number 5, number 6, or she opens up top. She doesn't bat in the middle, but he can. It's Grace Harris. If she does what she does, even at number 4, she will be able to do it.
Sorry, let me stop you there. That's four. We're winning the WPL. I don't want to say anything else.
Fair, ठीक है. I mean, I don't mind. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they are able to win the WPL with this batting lineup. It means we'll be seeing a lot of fireworks. So that's how I would look at it. Number 4, Grace. Number 5, Richa. Number 6, Pooja. Number 7, Nadine de Klerk. Number 8, Shriyanka. Number 9, Radha Yadav. Number 10, Prema Rawat. Number 11, Arundhati Reddy. That top 7 is box office. No, and Jeet also agrees with that. I don't think we have any qualms about the batting itself. It's the bowling now. It's whether they can defend those above par totals. That's where the question is. But this is the 11 I would at least start with for RCB.
Okay, interesting. Jeet, any sort of disselections there?
No, so that's what it's the exact 11 that even I would prefer. The same one.
Wow.
But look, it's as I mentioned, I mean, a lot of it is dependent upon Pooja Vastrakar. What happens if she's not fit? If she's not fit, then they might actually look at Lauren Bell. That's why I'm kind of, tilting towards Lauren Bell and Anya Shrubsole and all these connections. That too, after paying 90 lakhs, it's probably unlikely that she'll be benched. But in case Pooja Vastrakar is fit, I still see an outside chance for somebody like Lindsay Smith to be that fourth overseas player ahead of Nadine de Klerk. Look, Nadine de Klerk is fantastic. Even I would prefer to start with her. But given the kind of combination that they've got, given the kind of firepower they've got, do they really need a Nadine de Klerk over a Lindsay Smith with that brittle spin attack? So I think that's the only bone of contention. Yeah, so Pooja Astrakar's fitness is probably going to decide the kind of combination that they are really going to go ahead with. Otherwise, I largely agree with Akshay, including the batting order as well.
Okay, fine. I disagree with both of you all about Lauren Bell. She's not played a single WPL game, and you guys have just given her pelters. You look at her 100 record, it's brilliant. And she's played maybe a game or two in the WPL, which has also given us a lot of inspiration. Look, she's known as a shard, and I feel like she's going to be a real diamond in that attack. Let's see if time proves me right. Right. Having said that, time to finish off things with the Gujarat Giants because they've done some stellar business as well. And I don't know how you guys feel about this team. Everyone keeps thinking about these are the beating boys or the girls, so to speak, in this 5-team competition. But Jeet, surely they've probably turned the corner with the auction business they've done. So you can go first here. What's been their biggest takeaway again from the auction?
Yeah, so they are massively an upgrade as compared to the previous seasons. I really like the kind of clarity they went ahead with, and they were really, laser focused upon the kind of players that they wanted to pick for the roles. So I had a kind of an 11 on my mind before the auction started for the few slots, and they've kind of nailed those slots with those exact players. So I'm really impressed with the kind of auction they had. Yes, you may argue that Sophie Devine for 2 CR right up front was probably a lot more expensive, and I would agree with that as well. But look, I mean, this is where Beth Mooney kind of steps in, right? You have always, I mean, you've previously seen Dayal and Hemlata feature for the Perth Scorchers, right? Because of Beth Mooney. Now it's the other way around. There is Beth Mooney in the Gujarat Giants, and she has brought in Sophie Devine, who is playing for the Perth Scorchers. So it's not a bad combination to have to, kind of complement somebody like Beth Mooney. You need an aggressive batter, and I think Sophie Devine kind of checks that list. And she's been in a scintillating bowling form as well. So they've done really well on that particular part. But besides that, I'm really happy with some of the names that they have been able to go for. Somebody like Georgia Verm is a player that I rate really highly. They've managed to get her back in. There is Kanika Ahuja that they've managed. They retained. They used the RTM on Bharti Fool Mali as well. And that bowling attack or the pace attack looks really good because now they have the service of Renuka Singh and they've got Tita Sadhu as well. So I'm pretty happy with the kind of the auction that they had. Even the backups look quite good. They've got Kim Garth, who's there. There's Rajeshwari Gaikwad, who brings in that experienced left arm spin option in case they want to prefer her over Tanuja Kanwar. So, all in all, definitely a massive upgrade. And it's like I said, I mean, UP Warriors and GG are perhaps the two more happier of the franchises with this mega auction. And you could see with the kind of squad that they have assembled, the kind of strength that they've ended up getting. So, I'll be surprised if they, kind of end up with the wooden spoon this time around.
Okay, interesting. I'll tell you what, Akshay. I mean, I feel like looking at the GG team, I think I'm going to be backing them after RCB because they have my second favorite player, Ashley Gardner, who probably should captain. I don't know whether they give it to someone else, but I picked Gardner. And then you mentioned, I mean, Jeet mentioned all the acquisitions they've gotten this time. It's just all former RCB players. Georgia Behrim, they've got Kanika Ahuja, they've got Renuka Singh Thakur. I mean, there's more names that we can probably scan through that squad. But your first thoughts about Gujarat Giants? And again, surely it can't be a wooden spoon story for them.
I'd be very disappointed. And once again, it'll take incredible skill for them, from this side, from the kind of talents that they managed to recruit to sort of finish with the wooden spoon. So I really hope they just get their tactics right. Like, as long as you even, I'm not even saying they have to get it wrong, get it right. As long as they don't get it wrong just as often as they did in the last auction cycle, I think they should do just fine, because that's the kind of 11 they've assembled, let alone the squad. I'm just talking about the 11. Like Jeet said, I'm very happy with some of the purchases they made. Sure, one might argue, and rightfully so, that Sophie Devine at 2 is probably a bit too steep, but you've got in a Georgia Byram at 1, you've got in a Kashvi Gautam at 65, you've got in a Renuka Singh at 60. So you've already made up for that. And at the end of the day, you'll have to look at the
You've
11 as
got in, you've got in someone Akshay's interviewed as well on Unwind.
Exactly. So, given that, I don't think it's too bad at all. And once again, we cannot look at players and positions in isolation. It's always an 11, it's always a combination that we talk about. And as a combination, this team has a lot going for it. Just think of the kind of boxes you would want to tick in your side. They tick almost all of them. You've got aggressive batters, you've got dependable batters, you've got banks, you've got a couple of left handers to throw in, you've got a very good engine room over there in Bharti, Georgia, and Kashvi at 6, 7, 8. You've got a Tanuja at 9, who I think is a fairly decent batter over there in that position. So they've got batting depth going for them. Now, when you look at bowling, you've got new ball bowlers in Renuka Singh and Sophie Devine. You've got death bowlers in someone like a Georgia Vedam and potentially Ash Gardner over there. You've got a Kashvi Gautam who has those Yorkers, who can also bowl the heavy ball, who can bowl those shorter ones, who can be that middle overs enforcer along with Tita Sadhu if need be. You've got a Tanuja Kanwar who can hold and end up, who's a very economical bowler, might not always be amongst the wickets, but if you look at her numbers in the last 2 seasons, she's taken a wicket at less than 19 balls per dismissal. She's conceded runs at less than 7.5 runs per over. So those are very good numbers to have, and she's done that over the last 2 seasons. And that was also very good to see. So very happy with it, and a very interesting buy in Anushka Sharma. I want to see more of that. I thought they would go for Harleen Deol at number 3. They've gone ahead with Anushka Sharma. So in some sense, that box also being ticked, wherein they will have a newbie, an uncapped player coming in. So they're also giving an opportunity to someone new instead of just going after proven customers. When it comes to backups, the kind of backups they've gone for, they've not gone for like backups for the sake of it. They could have very easily, sort of replaced, say, I mean, for Indian pacers, they could have just gone after another Indian pacer and all of it. But to get that flexibility, bringing in someone like a Kim Kat, that's a great move, because now if Sophie Devine doesn't work out for whatever reason, they can always come with a Danny White Hodge at the top. They can always replace Anushka Sharma, or if they want, they can have Anushka Sharma open with Beth Mooney, replace Sophie Devine with Kim Garth, replace the pacer who's not functioning for another Indian batter. So they've got that also right. They've got a lot of permutations and combinations that they can come up with. They've done a good job of mitigating form issues to the likes of Sophie Devine, potentially even Georgia Byram if it doesn't work out for whatever reason. All in all, very happy with the side. I know it seems like I'm just gloating over them. A lot of people also pointed out some of the issues they have. I understand that too. Renuka is yet to prove herself over here. Same is the case with Ita Sadhu. Kashi Gautam has injury concerns. Valid points, all of these. But even then, see, there's not going to be a perfect side. What we are looking for is the least flawed side possible. And I think Gujarat Giants is the least flawed, or has the least flawed 11 compared to the other 5.
And my hunch is it'll probably be harder to pick the 11 with you two in just a bit. But Jeet, you mentioned all the names there, the backups as well. One name, which is probably not even a household name, and I'm guessing it's a case of talent meeting opportunities. Happy Kumari, 10 lakh. Can you tell me more about not just her name, but essentially what she brings to the table? Is she going to be one of those hidden gems unearthed in WPL 4?
No, so this was actually one of the names that was floating around. I mean, within our group, I mean, there was a lot of talk about Happy Kumari from the scouts who have been there. I personally haven't really watched her a lot, but I've heard a lot. So out of the 5 or 6 shortlisted players, uncapped players are not really well known. Happy Kumari was one of the names I was featuring. So it's good to see her, at least find a place. But yeah, unfortunately, I won't be able to tell you as to what she exactly does. I know she's a pacer, but I've not really watched her, so I cannot get into the details about that.
Akshay, any intel about Happy?
Same. Right arm pacer, really searched hard on the internet for clips. There aren't any clips available, unfortunately. So we don't know. She can be a hit the deck bowler, she can be a quick bowler, she can be a death over specialist. So we don't have that intel. She's a pacer. So again, a backup for someone like a Tita Sadhu. If Sadhu isn't doing well for them, or is probably having injury concerns like in the past, then someone like a Happy can slot in. But once again, it's we wouldn't want to just comment on the kind of bowler she is. A pacer is what I also know, right arm pacer.
And the reason I asked that is because, I mean, we've seen it with this franchise even in the past when they went for Kashvi Gautam. And at that point in time, people are saying, look, she could be the real next big thing for women's cricket. But let's see how that story unfolds. So then let's put our minds in terms of predicting the 11 then, Akshay, because you mentioned the various depth they have. They can chop and change. But again, how do you kind of assemble that 11? And I'm pretty sure Jeet would have a few disagreements because you guys have been too kind to each other.
I'll actually let Jeet take first ball on this. I
Okay.
think our 11s are more or less the same, but yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it will be
Jeet?
again like fairly on the similar lines. So I'll have Sophie Devine opening along with Beth Mooney because they've already got Ash Gardner at number four. So you don't need Sophie Devine to be slotted at four or five. They've got those spaces and slots covered. So it's going to be that Perth Scorchers pairing of Mooney and Sophie Devine. At number three, I put in Anushka Sharma because out of all the options that they've got, I think she fits that particular role really well. She opens as well for her domestic side, and she's a fantastic batter to make use of the power play if required, and she's good after that as well. Plus the fact that she brings in 4 overs of spin if required. Then they've got Ash Gardner at number four. Then I've gone with a left-hander in Kanika Ahuja at number five. With Kanika, again, I'm looking more at a role with bat rather than ball because they've got several spinners. So I don't think Kanika needs to bowl in this particular 11. At number six is Bharti Fulmali. Number seven is Georgia Verum. Number eight, I've gone for Kashvi Gautam. Then I've gone for Tanuja Kanwar at nine. Number 10 is Tita Sadhu, and number 11 is Renuka Singh. So I think it probably should be almost similar because the backups are probably a lot more suited to be the backup options rather than being in the playing 11.
So Akshay, essentially, is batting. I mean, Tanuja Kanwar, I know you don't count her as a batter, but it ends at eight for you in terms of Jeet's lineup. And where do you kind of figure a place for anyone else in that 11?
No, this is pretty much the 11. And Tanuja at number 9 is still a very handy left hand batter to have. She's also come up with a couple of cameos for Gujarat herself. And I do rate her bowling a lot more than others. So that's also that there's a bit of bias that would creep in. But yeah, exact 11, exact order, no changes whatsoever. And that's where I think just the clarity that they had while building the 11. Because with other sides, there's always that confusion. Array, this backup player is actually a lot more stronger. She should be a first 11 player. We need to understand there needs to be a clear demarcation in who your first 11 is, who your backups are, so that there's no conundrum in your heads. Oh man, you know what, this batter, she has to play. How can you bench a Lauren Bell at 90 lakhs and all of that? There's none of that going for Gujarat Giants. They've been very clear, and that's what impressed me the most. I look for clarity, and that's where Mumbai Indians, credit where it's due, they were clear what they wanted. Same as the case with Gujarat Giants, they were clear. And that also reflects in the kind of players they missed out on, which was very few. The players they wanted, they went after them. Sure, you can say that they had the buying power, but so did UP Warriors. But Gujarat Giants had a greater conversion rate. They got a lot more players that they bid for than, say, a UP Warriors. So kudos to them, and I think a very, very, very good set of players. And I'm genuinely excited to see the girls in yellow or orange rather do something good this time around.
Orange indeed. Let's see if that kind of goes well for them. And just a final one, just to close out this chat. Predictions in terms of captaincy. Is it going to be Mooney, Gardner, Divine?
Yeah, look, I
Jeet?
think realistically it has to be Ash Gardner because Sophie Devine is that one player who can be replaced by the other overseas depending upon the combination they want, or in case Sophie Devine is not, is able to hit the form that you'd probably want from her. So that's the only spot that can be changed. You cannot replace Georgia Verum because she's the only wrist spinner in the entire squad. You cannot replace Beth Mooney, nor can you replace Ash Gardner for that matter. So it will make a lot more sense to stick with Ash Gardner over anybody else. Even Beth Mooney could be a name that might come up, but Beth Mooney has herself been very keen to not be the skipper for whatever franchise she has been involved in. So realistically, it will make sense to continue with Gardner, and she has been doing this quite a lot lately. She's leading the Sydney Sixers as well. So at least I personally would stick to Ash Gardner, and I'm pretty much sure that's exactly what's going to happen as well.
I think Ash Gardner for me as well. Akshay, I think he'll make a full house with Ash Gardner as well as there. Guys, it's been a fascinating chat, and just in terms of breaking down the WPL. And of course, we're still a month and a week away from what's going to be a compelling season again. But let's see how it all unfolds. We've mentioned, I think, all 84 players to you, essentially, including the ones that you guys also presumed that we wouldn't have. But if you've missed anything, let us know in the comments. Jeet, great to see you. And it'll be a pleasure to have you on at some point in time in the future to discuss women's cricket again. And Akshay, brilliant from your side as ever. With that being said, guys, smash a like, have a great December. And of course, tell a friend about cricket.com. We'll see you guys shortly. Until the next time, it's a goodbye from all three of us. Hope you enjoyed this bat, ball, and bet hug.